to Friday Night Create This with Cindy Harrison. I am your host, and I have something in mind that is for Mother's Day kind of idea. I myself love hats, and I love collecting them and making them and painting them. I am kind of infatuated with hats. Anyone who knows me knows this. And so tonight I'm going to create a hat that is made from a small paper mache box, and I can't wait to show you. Okay, so what I started to do is I had a paper mache box. That would be these two pieces here. And what I did was to take an old piece of cardboard that you got from when you bought a picture frame. And it comes in these cardboards. So when you take the picture frame out, you can still use this cardboard. And what I did was I cut out a rim or brim of the hat. I placed the box upside down onto the canvas, took my compass, measured where the half point was, and decided how wide this should be in perspective to that. After I drew it out with my compass, I glued it on with some quick dry tacky glue. And that's what this is glued on with. And it's glued onto the top of the lid. So easy peasy. Now I'm going to take this apart, and let's go ahead and we're going to base coat this brim and this hat with a coat or two of this moon yellow. I picked moon yellow because it reminds me of the color of a straw hat. And I have a flat brush, and I'm just going to put that right on. Try not to have too much water when you're painting on paper mache. Paper mache in itself is paper. And when you have a lot of water, it beads up the paper. And while one area is dry, go back and do a second coat. So we're going to let that dry. So the next thing I'm going to do is paint around here. And this step is fairly easy. I call it kind of boring to do base coating. This is called base coating because you're putting the base coat down, the base color. And then we can paint this edge a little bit here. I'm going to cover this up, so there's really no need to do that. So I am going to do the other side, but for right now, I'm just going to let that dry. Now you can paint the inside also if you'd like, but you can also decoupage the inside. And wouldn't that be fun to have a nice, bright, cheerful, flowery color? So let me blow dry that. The next thing you'd want to do is, now if you don't want your hat to be yellow, definitely you can change the color up. If you want it a light blue or a light green, I thought about a light green, you're going to put a light base down first. You want a light base, and then you're going to add a darker glaze when we get to this next step, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. You're going to want to do the back side all at the same time, so when you do the next step, you can just do it all together. So try not to have any water in there. And here's another trick too I wanted to share with my fellow painting people. When you blow dry your piece, don't go at a 90-degree angle. What happens is the hot air from this hits the surface, bounces back into where the hot air is coming out, and it will burn out your motor. And that's how come our things overheat, our blow dryers overheat, and then we end up having to stop a while and wait till it cools down. If you blow dry on the side, the hot air keeps going, but it does hit the surface and it won't bounce back into your blow dryer. Now the next thing we're going to do is take some raw sienna, and we are going to also take some glazing medium. And we're going to mix them together 50-50. We're going to take our brush, same one we used for base coating. Get all of that base coat color out. Get all of the water out. And if you want to test it first to see if you know what you're doing, then what you're going to do is turn this over and take some of that color and add it to this area over the whole thing. So this is going to be our practice side, because mostly no one sees it, although everyone does have a need to turn things over and check things out. So that's going to be your practice side. Take a very firm hair bristle brush and start drawing it across, wiping it off on a paper towel. Drawing it across this way, wiping it off on a paper towel. And keep going back and forth until you get a nice linen look. I don't know if you can tell, but there is a linen weave to that. So if you don't think that you're getting enough texture, you can wet your brush a little bit and then press harder. And then you'll get more weave. So that's starting to show. So now I'm going to put that aside and let that dry, and let's work on this. And it's a small hat, so I can actually like do it all at the same time. If you're working on a big hat, you might want to be doing it in small sections. Wipe off the excess that you're pulling off. Another thing you can do is take the brush with the first base coat color, and you can do lines of that over top of your glaze. You can do the same on this. Hit that with some lines going both vertical and horizontal on your piece. Doesn't have to go straight across. It can be hit or miss. You can have some lines heavier here and there, but not everywhere. And so you have a nice linen look. Now we have to do this side. Now you're going to bring that around the brim. And of course, this cardboard already has some texture to it. And that'll just add to the character of our straw hat. Now I'm going to go straight down as if I was going through the whole thing. I'm not going to radiate like a sunburst. Wipe off the excess and then go across. And if that doesn't get all the off that I want, I can go and pick up some of that moon yellow on my fan brush and add some streaks here and there. Not, some are thin, some are thick. And add some across and let that dry. So as you see now, when you put this on here, you have a nice little hat. Okay, we have this. What are we going to do with that? I'm going to paint it with some Snow White. And the reason behind that is because I am going to put some ribbon on there. And the ribbon is white predominantly. It'll have a design on it, but it's predominantly white. Anything that is predominantly white will show, almost become invisible when adhered to another surface. It'll take on whatever is the color behind it. So if you paint this white, then it won't change the color of the ribbon, or if you're decoupaging a napkin on here, it won't alter that. So we're going to dry that. If you are a person who loves to sew, you probably have a lot of stuff in your drawers and cabinets. I love doing so many different things. That's why we created Cre8this, so I could show off all those things that I love to do. But I'm thinking I can even put some lace around here, or maybe we can just put the lace around the outside here. And we can also put it underneath, so all you see is the lace. So I might do that. Okay, in the meantime, I have this ribbon, and I'm going to glue it around my hat here, and then trim it off on the other side. And to do that, I love using this quick dry tacky glue. So put it, zigzag it all around your hat brim, and decide which end is the back end of your brim, and that's where you want the overlap to be. And don't forget, put some more glue on where that overlap is, and have a glue that will dry clear. Okay, so now we have our little ribbon around here. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is decide what more kind of decorations we want on here. I have feathers. Remember I said we probably have a lot of stuff. I'm going to take out some feathers. And this is, I guess, like a feather boa, and I just pick the feathers off as I need them. Pick things that are equivalent to the size that you're working on. I have some flowers, flowers with bling, flat flowers, 3D flowers. And I am going to, I kind of like this here. And I picked these up at the market for on clearance and stuff for when, I think that kind of goes well with that. When they're going out of stock and trying to get rid of them. And you can pick these up. Now, if you want, you can hide this. You can choose to hide that. And then there will be no edge to see. So we can stick some flowers. We can stick some feathers in here. You can have them, have it come up. If you stick this here, it gives you a better idea. We can stick that in there and have a bunch of these. And you'll have a better idea of what kind of height you need on these as you get designing. And that's what it's all about. This is all just designing. And I want some leaves. These have some dark green leaves, but not enough to show up. So I'm going to go over here and pick up some of the color that's in here. And there is this one that kind of looks like leaves. So I can cut these up and put them in behind my flowers to look like leaves. And if you want to do like a little doily, maybe a little doily. I don't think that'll show up when I'm done. So if I take out some of these, and that's the whole thing about this, is it's all about what looks good to you, what makes you smile, makes you happy. So now let's construct. Okay. So I don't want, if you don't want to use this as a real box, you can actually glue that in there. But if you do want to use it as a real box, you might want to make sure that when you glue your things on here, you're not gluing them to the top. So let's start with some feathers. I'm going to put some glue on my ribbon. Stick those on. Put it at a little bit of an angle so they're hanging out towards the back. You might need a little help. Now, this one's going to go here. And these are going to go there. Okay. Now we have a little frou-frou, right? Let that set up a second and not take your fingers with it. Now I'm going to put on my little doily, half on and half off. You have to drop that in there sometimes. And then you can stick that on like that. And now I'm going to start, I'll put some leaves. You might want to, well, let's put some flowers first. So for that, I'm going to put a lot of glue and then stick a flower on. I'm just making a bouquet of flowers. Now, if you want some of these white ones, you can go and stick some of those in there. Or you can stick a leaf. We have this cute, darling little hat, straw hat, that's also a gift box from Mom. If you want to add that lace, you can turn it over and we can put the glue right around the edge. And start applying our lace. Now think about where the back is, because now we definitely are going to see that cut edge. And have it out a little bit over the edge, so a little bit beyond the edge. This is going to be adorable. And see See how adorable that looks? So I attached a little green doily. I put some flowers in here. Can tuck some leaves in there. And feathers. So that's how you create this lovely little summer hat. And it could be a gift box. Like I said, oops. Make sure you didn't glue anything to it. It can be a gift box, and we can decoupage on the inside. So if you want to decoupage on the inside, what you do is have some of that decoupage. You can use this, or you can use the napkin formula if you're using a lighter weight product. Napkins are wonderful. So remember, I told you earlier that if you have any white in the napkin at all, it will pick up the color that's behind it. So we're going to want to paint the inside of this box white if we plan on putting a decoupaging napkin in it. Napkins, a lot of times, are 3 plies. This is 1 ply, and then there's another one in here. And if you can't get it off this way, I have another trick, but there we go. I don't have to do it. So there's a 2nd ply. Now, how do we get it in there, right? We're going to take an old scruffy brush, one that has seen better days. Put this medium, what we call a medium, all over your surface. And then we're going to take our tissue paper. You can either tear it up or you can leave it all together. And we're going to start pressing this down into this medium. You can do it with your brush. You can do it with your fingers. And if it gets wrinkled, it's okay. It doesn't matter. You're just going to be placing this down and add more decoupage as you need to. It's okay that it's going over the edge right now because we can trim that off later. Place it, just keep overlapping it. I mean, I didn't paint it white, and you'll see that it will be dark, but it's okay for now. But if I was doing this as a gift, I might go ahead and paint it white. And if it was on the outside, I definitely would have painted it white. So you're going to let this dry, and then you're going to pull off all this excess. If you want to decoupage the inside, by all means, I would decoupage, but don't decoupage up the rim probably, because then the thickness of this might not go over the edge of that. So you'll want to maybe be careful and just do the inside. Remember what I said? Tearing is fine. It gives it more character, so it's not so perfect. So we don't want to be perfect. And let it dry. It wouldn't hurt to let it dry overnight. And then if you want to throw some varnish over top, you can do that, and you're ready to display it or add that gift to your mom, to your wife, to your aunt, to your grandma, to your daughter, to your granddaughter. And, you know, you don't have to know how to paint beautifully. You don't have to know how to draw in order to make some very lovely things by using decoupage. With a little homemade gift, and I think that adds a little extra nicety to their day. So, as you see, I did not put any around the rim. I'm just putting it down in there. You can go back and paint that rim out with, if you painted the whole thing white, it would be white already, so you would be fine. But that will be all that I would do, because the thickness of the paper might cause this not to fit. So when this is dry, either you can tear it off with your hands, or it's not quite dry yet, or you can take a nail file. I used to have one out here, a nail file, and just gently sand off those edges, and that will smooth that right out and make it nice, but it's still wet, so we need to let that dry up. And if there was a white background, I'll tell you that white from the plaid would be popping right now, and it will be beautiful. So I hope you enjoyed this project, and I hope you come back for more, and I will see you next week. Take care now and enjoy creating this.